if you have a Bible, if you'd like to open it, I will look at several passages to kind of start out, jump in here. Job, chapter 14, Job's beginning right there before you get to Psalms, so last Psalm, go back a little. Job chapter 14. You know, there's three characters that Job dialogues back and forth with in the book of Job, all the way up to the 30th chapter, which is 2/3 of the book of Job. And it's a dialogue between Job and these three characters. And the three characters' names, they're called his friends, is Eliphaz, Zophar, and Bildad. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar. And so he dialogues back and forth. Each time you read about a chapter or so, it will be something that one of the three characters will tell Job in response. And of course, at the end of the book, God tells Job, I'm not pleased with what your three friends said, because what they said is not true about me. And most folks don't never get that, because they either don't read all of the book of Job, don't get to the last chapter, and so they'll take what these guys said and say, well, this is what God said, this is what God thought about it. And that's what the guys say. This is what I think God would say about it. But actually they represent the three facets of the physical or the natural. Many people, when they talk about the physical and natural, they equate it with animal. And I'm not so sure that that's a good equation myself, even though the physical natural can be animalistic. You know, in as many of its physical attributes, it can be animalistic, but it's still not the animal, or it's not an animal. It is the divine emanation of God. It's the divine mirror, image of God. I mean, it is. And even though it has these traits, these are physical, natural traits, they're earthly. And many times most of the time we live from that. We live from that trait of that earthly. And so this is something Job says back to Zophar, and in a response to some different things that Zophar had said and what Zophar was referring to. And this is just a verse, and I want you to see this verse. In verse 14, he says, if a man die, shall he live again? All the days of my appointed time will I wait till my change come. That's a passage of Scripture you kind of ponder. Again, I'll read it to you. If a man die, will he live again?
Hallelujah.
And if you stick to Christianity, and the idea of Christianity is, no, you get one shot at this, you live and you die, and that's it. And then you have the judgment. That's how Christianity builds the ideology. So if you live here and you only live for, say you're a teenager, have a car wreck and you die, then you got 14, 16 years and that was it. And that was your earthly journey. Okay. Whereas all the other, basically, religions of the world always hold true to the idea of reincarnation, that you live and then you lay this body down to pick up another body to come back and live again and live again. And many ideas that are going along with that is you live to gain wisdom and knowledge, hopefully, in that when you come back again, you will pick up and build on that wisdom and knowledge. So therefore, it would be an evolutionary thing that you would continue to grow and grow and grow, and until you have reached that what people call off the wheel of karma, or you reach that point where you go to worlds that are beyond worlds, which Jesus talks about in one of his parables, that there are worlds beyond the worlds, or dimensions beyond the dimensions that we know of in this dimensional reality. So although those ideas can be true or may not be true, who's to say that either or? I don't know that anybody that's ever gone to a 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 10th, 12th dimensional world come back to this dimension and say, hey, y'all, here's what it's like. I don't know that there's anyone ever done that, but a lot of people do take mind-altering substances to go on a spiritual journey. Not to get high, but to go on a spiritual journey. And that's been practiced for thousands and thousands of years. You can go way, way back and find that practice. You know, a lot of different things that practice to take that trip, that journey. I personally have never gone on that journey, but I'm not against that journey. I wouldn't mind taking it sometime if it's through mushrooms or ayahuasca or whatever. If I understood that journey could enhance my personal life spiritually, for me, that would not be a bad thing, a bad idea. But in Christianity, we talk just about everything's taboo. So you live and you die, and that's it. You're gone. You're out of there. Well, Job kind of mentions this. If a man live, will he die again? I would absolutely say yes. I would say that and so what I want you to do is go over with me to the book of Daniel. Over there, one of the little minor section, one of the minor prophets, Daniel, over toward, go to Matthew and you count back several books there. And look at Daniel chapter 12. And you know, actually the songs that you've just played, both of these songs have somewhat to do with the things that I will kind of share this morning, which is not strange to me. Because to me, you know, we do come together, whether we're a large group or whether we're a small group, we come together with a unity of ideologies. We come together with a unity of purpose. And so even if you're in a small group, there's a tremendous unity, and the power is there, as of course Beverly's already experienced.
I feel like our little group,
and we are.
I feel like our little group actually shows the world picture on a huge scale. We get to these same points from different places. I cannot and do not study the way you do, but I do study and listen to other things.
Right, yeah.
And we're sitting there, and then when you and I have conversations, we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
You and I would sit at the shop, and I'd say something, and you were on that same page from a different approach. I believe our little group, like I said, is a mirror of the world. Getting to the same place, the same destination, the same reality, from God only knows how many different approaches.
Well, you know, if all of you or any of you got to watch the president's speech the other night, which we did, and I feel totally honored, just to be honest with you, that I got to hear that speech. For me, I thought it was the most profound speech a president's ever made. Definitely in my lifetime, it's probably the most profound speech I've ever heard. And then, of course, the next day they showed the polls, and the polls were like 76% of the American people totally agreed with that speech and were moved by that speech. Yet when you watch the news media and you begin to see the controversy of the Democratic Party, and if you were able to watch the speech and see what was going on, you could see that divide. Now, what I would see in that, to me, would be the physical and the spiritual. That's how I would see that. Many times the physical wants to deny the spiritual things that God is saying and the things that God is doing, just like the song that you just played there, Jamie. I've never heard that song. That was a powerful song, you know. And the scripture says, when you're weak, you're strong. You know, when you're down, you're really up. You know, when I'm in the miry clay, and that's the contradiction that we seem to be in this dimensional reality. And that's not a bad reality if we can learn that today I'm on top of the mountain. You know, hallelujah. I mean, I'm skipping from hill to hill to hill. Tomorrow it seems like I slipped into the valley, and look at, you know, like you said, did somebody say the other day, what was it, 60 or 70 degrees, sun shining, pull off your shirt and you think, wow, it's a summer day. Really? And I was experiencing that just the other day, and today it's kind of cool and 38 degrees.
One of the things you're talking about there, and this came as part of our conversation, tells us in Scripture, though, when you were talking about the spiritual and natural, tells us twice in Revelation that God proclaimed we are kings and priests. When you hear that, if you really think of it, it's telling me I've got authority in the natural as a king and in the spiritual realm as a priest. 1 Peter calls us a royal priesthood.
Yeah. A holy nation.
And a holy nation and a chosen generation.
Chosen people.
Is that passage. If you hear that, really hear that.
In your
It
heart.
is saying, we have the authority in both realms. Yes, there is the physical realm. Guess what? I have dominion over that as well.
Right. Amen.
Religion tells us we're not worth anything. And that's what a lot of people deal with.
Yes, yes, and that's religion. Now, when I say religion, I'm not only talking about Christianity or Judaism. When I'm saying religion, I'm talking about Hindu or Buddhist or whatever. Any kind of religion today that has become a source of bondage, or that suppresses us, or that tells us we can't, or that tells us that will be fine when we get to heaven, or we get there. Those are false concepts of what true religion was all about. The book of James says true religion is undefiled. Now, we can't hardly find that today, but what is true religion? True religion goes back to the truth that science proves is true. And so what's wrong with proving the truth? I mean, why be afraid of your truth if your truth can be proven and it's not strong enough to withstand the proof? Then I'm not sure it would be a good truth to stand on. Do you follow what I'm saying? So why would we hesitate to allow any truth of ours to be proven by anything? It doesn't matter to me. Because true religion, as James mentioned, or pure religion, whichever would like to say it, pure religion or true religion, it's undefiled. In other words, it is not biased. It doesn't hold you back. It doesn't suppress you. It lifts you up. It embraces you. It loves you. Period. Period. That's the bottom line. It loves you. Period. And that's a different concept than what we get through religion today. Religion that binds us up. Religion that seems to put us in a box.
Does it amaze you that even if you want to take the Bible literally, they aren't?
They take characters to be literal,
They didn't.
not the story.
They're not taking the fact that they have that kind of authority literally.
No, they don't. No, they really don't. All right, did you find Daniel? I want you to see a verse here in Daniel. Verse 2, Daniel 12:2. Verse 2 says, "And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth." Just take these little phrases and chew on them. Again. "And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake." Now, I think that's what's happening. When they did the poll, you know what I would say? The majority of people, I don't care what religion, what preference they hold themselves to, whether it's Protestant, Catholic, Buddhist, Hindu, and the list go all the way across the board. I think the 76% of the people are really probably after the same thing and don't even recognize that many times their religious ideologies or doctrinal teachings are the things that suppress them and hold them back. And many of them are afraid to think outside that. They're afraid to experience something outside that dimension or that reality because they have been told that it's not good to go outside what they teach them or what they this is our group, what we teach, this is truth. If you go down the road, you ain't going to find the truth. Well, that's not true. You probably will. You can find the truth in many different places. So I want you to pay attention to a couple of verses here in this passage of Scripture. In Daniel, he says, "And many of them that sleep in the dust." Now, how would you think of that? Many times when you read that, how would you think of that word and what that word is saying? A father, what would you think that word is referring to? Well, I'll have you answer that. Most folks are going to think that's referring to the dirt of the earth. So they read that dust and what they think in their mind is dirt. And that's not what all the word is. The word for dirt would be more equated with the word eretz. This word right here, father, is more equated with the particles of light. But we don't think that, and we haven't been taught to think that, and so we don't associate ourselves with that. And then it says, the dust of the earth. Well, there again, you will get those two words together, dust and earth, you would think what he's talking about here is dirt and physical body, earthen vessels. So you think of those two things. And neither verse is referring to that at all, or neither word. So the word dust here is a fodder, which means light particles, and I'll explain that just a little bit in a minute. And the word earth here is the Hebrew word adamah. It's not the word eretz, it's the word adamah. So with that, go with me to Genesis chapter 2. Everything in the Bible will probably find its way back to Genesis chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I don't care where you go in the Bible, you're going to wind up back to the foundation. You're going to go back to Genesis 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, because that lays the foundation for everything that is, whether it be physical, human, whether it be animal, or whether it be plant, bird, fish, anything on this earth or the earth, the eretz. But Genesis chapter 2 is where we found the foundational passage right here. And the Lord said, verse 7, Genesis 2:7, the Lord God formed man of the dust. That's a fodder. It's the Hebrew word a fodder. And the word, it's spelled, let me see if I can put it up here and spell it for you. It's spelled with the Hebrew, that's called ayin, Fay, Rash. This is called ayin. This has a value of 70, and this word means the eye of God. Some people will equate this Hebrew glyph with the pineal gland. It's the eye that God sees through. Now, this is the word for dust, okay? A fodder. You know, why they did that, I don't know. You know, they could have easily just put light particles, but they didn't. They used dirt, so they're telling the story. Fay, this is a number 80. And this happens to be the Fay is what's called a Hebrew double. I want to talk about the three divisions of the Hebrew alphabet. The Hebrew alphabet is divided into three sections. It's divided into 3, it's divided into 7, and it's divided into 12 to give you a total of 22 glyphs. So the whole alphabet, the 22 glyphs of the basic Hebrew alphabet, are divided into the 3, the 7, and the 12. And I want to look at those in a minute, but let's come back over here to this is the word dust, okay? A fodder. I've had people call me here in my CDs for years and say, how do you get light particles out of that? I said, well, it's easy just to break the word down and you will begin to see it. So, Fay, this, if we do this little thing like this, what is that sign right there?
Infinity.
Infinity, exactly. That's the sign of infinity. So when you stand it straight up, it's what number is it? It's number 8, right? So what does number 8 stand for? Infinity. What is infinity? It's timeless, isn't it? In infinity, there's no such thing as time. It's where we derive our word eternity, or eternal, timeless. So this word infinity, or Fay, with starting out with the 8, it gives it the concept of the idea of infinity, but it has 2 glyphs. So now it shows duality. So the word Fay is actually infinity or timelessness in time. Now the only thing you can get out of that is God in time. God is timeless. God is without days, period. No beginning and no end. God is infinity, but He's deposited Himself in duality. And then of course this is the Hebrew Rash, and it has a value of 200. And if you took away the 2 zeros, then you have the 2, and the number 2 in Hebrew is Beth, which means container. Any and everything on the earth is a container. Even the rocks are the containers. What do they contain? Well, in this case, they contain divinity. Because now, in Hebrew, you go from single-digit numbers, double-digit numbers, and triple-digit numbers. And so you go from the plan, or the idea, or I call it the blueprint, or the architectural diagram to the duality or manifestation. That's what manifestation is duality. You're a duality, and you're a duality that's created to be a unity. Now, isn't that a paradox? You're a duality, so what does that mean? There's tension. There's tension in you, always. There's never a time there's not tension. But when we bring that tension to a harmonious whole or oneness, then we're not struggling with the tension. We're walking in the tension. And we find peace in that tension. So when I'm down, I can be up. Why? Because I find that place. Yesterday's not today, and today's not tomorrow. Today's today. Well, it's cloudy and it's raining today. It's not sunshine. So some people say, wow, it's a gloomy day. That's your point of view.
That's when
Because
you got that
sometimes
soul shine.
Sometimes if you're like me and Annie, it's a wonderful day. So you see what I'm saying? That's to bring harmony to anything of the dimensions that the earth is offering you, because that's all it's doing. It's offering us this. It's constantly offering itself to us. And how do we receive it? What do we do with it when we receive it? It's called duality. So this word goes back to divinity. So you start from the plan, which is God's idea. And God's idea is to manifest it in a dualistic world, which is this reality we're in. But it's not just to manifest it here, it's to bring the divine back into it. So when you have a three-dimensional world, we'll deal with this number 3 in the 3 Hebrew glyphs, which is a part of the whole. So it doesn't matter if you're looking at 3 numbers, or 7 numbers, or 12 numbers, what you're going to wind up with is you're going to wind up with this. You'll wind up with the whole. You'll wind up with the no beginning and no end. Any place you go. And so this science, I'm going to call this the science, and I'm going to call this the science of life, or light, L-I-G-H-T, which is a science that has basically been pushed to the side or pushed under the bushel or totally forgotten by most religious denominations and ideologies for nearly 17 or 1800 years. But it is a science that's evolving right now. It's being pulled out from under. And there have always been sages, peoples, groups, all in every age, all the periods of time that still embrace these ideas, that taught these truths. I mean, I go back in books I get, whether they're 50 years ago or 100 years ago or 200 years ago or 1,000 years ago, and I read from these men and women who still maintain this science, this truth, all of these concepts. So this one word, if you took this one word dust, and you just really begin to chew it and muse on it, you begin to really grasp the meaning of this word. I am, this word 200, rash, it has to do with fire. What is fire? Fire is light. It also has to do with the tongue. Just like James says, your tongue can be set on fire. Well, it can. And that fire can brew, it can create a storm of phenomenal or abnormal. And James, the book of James, we're really thinking back on the book of James this morning for some reason. I don't know. James said the tongue is like the rudder of a ship. Isn't it? And it is. It is. And James also said, why should it say this out of one spew of his mouth, that the water is bitter, and out of the other, said, no, the water is sweet. It kind of gives the idea. What is he saying? Bring it into a harmony. Bring it into a place of oneness and wholeness. Not to take away from the contrast, it's there. Okay, I don't know why I'm hanging on that, but either way. So this word afar, dust, is actually light particles. And these light particles are emanations out of the divine light. In other words, God constantly spews or emanates this energy out of itself. It's emanating right now through this cloudy, rainy day. And so this word afar, dust, and that's the same word we just looked at over there in Daniel, afar, light particles, God, man of the dust, light particles of the ground. That word ground is Adamah. And again, Adamah is the word for Adam. It's the same word, Aleph, dalit, mem. That's the word for Adam. Aleph, dalit, mem. 1, 4, and 600. Aleph, dalit, mem. That's the word for Adam. Adam. And you add this word, this is feminine energy, this is number 5, you add that to it and you get the word Adamah. So really what he's saying is God created man from the particles of light by the use of the Adamah. And this is a miracle substance, this is a miracle product. This would have to do also with the blood, because they say the life is in the blood, and the way that you would spell the blood is from these same glyphs. Same thing. So, when we begin to see that and we start to look at that, and what I want to say is, even though we're a twofold vehicle, twofold natured vehicle, spirit, soul, even though we are that, we live in a duality. The tension of right and left, the tension of male and female. That don't go away. It's not designed to go away. It is what it is. It is the reality. We live in that, in the middle of that. When Jesus is talking about the narrow road, the straight and the narrow path, he's talking about the middle way, just exactly like if you went into Hindu and Buddhist literature. In their writing, they're talking about the middle way. You find that middle way when you read the Sefer Yetzirah. This is a holy book of the Jews, the Sefer Yetzirah, which, you know, there are many books that I would read that I would say, if you want to understand the book of Genesis, you can't read the book of Genesis and understand it. That's why there's so much confusion. You're going to have to compile it with the Sefer Yetzirah. You're going to have to compile it with a lot of other writings and books to come together to get the whole idea of what it's saying. You know, and also study the ancient Hebrew glyphs. Then you can come to an understanding of why we have so much confusion in the tension. But if we understood that there's not any confusion in the tension is meant to pull us together, not pull us apart. Make us strong and not weak. So, therefore, when we are fighting a battle, you ever fight a battle? Every day. Every day you fight a battle. You fight a battle to get from here to over there. We just don't pay attention to it. And that's good. We pay attention to the battles that seem to catch our attention. And then we really do. We really do pay them attention.
Do me a favor, Jim. Draw your cross line through the heart chakra like we usually do.
Yeah.
Because now you've got your cardinal cross
Yeah.
in that illustration as well.
Yeah.
I've never seen you draw them both ways before.
Yeah. Yeah, there is the universal egg. And lots of literature read. You may not have read. I read about the universal egg. That is the universal egg. It's the cardinal cross. It's the universe, and again, it's infinity, it's timelessness, and all that. All of the other things that we get with. Okay, let me read you a note here. Move on here a little further. We live in a world that is regulated by timeless principles. And these timeless principles that I'm talking about right here are the timeless principles of the universe. Principles. Now, we are told that we have to live by laws. And so we get bound by laws. But we're not told that we actually live by principles. Principles are truths. They are scientific truths that everything works and moves and lives from. Like the principle of sowing and reaping, the principle of summer and winter. Those are principles. You can call them divine laws, but many times when we get into laws, we look at something like, well, the 10 Commandments. These commandments are the laws of God. And so we wind up putting ourselves in a state of bondage rather than realize we've been made to be free. We're liberated beings. We really are. And so when we've realized these are principles, well, if I don't work one principle, can I work another principle? You sure can. Does that mean the other principle I'm not working is not working? No, it's working. Most things are working to our ignorance. Whether they are for us or against us, or working with us are contrary to us. But they're still principles and they work. So the universe is regulated by timeless principles. One of the major principles of the laws is the law of reaping, or the law of receiving from what you sow, which we looked at Mark 4 to get that and looked at that. All of us continue to receive on a daily or a weekly, yearly schedule. Today is a result of a mixture of many things, not just one thing, but many different things and events that happened yesterday, last week, last month, last year, etc. Our whole idea of time, daily, weekly, and yearly, is based on the movement of the earth with its relationship to the timeless universe. And that gets into a lot of different movements, and y'all know that. Like the earth is moving to give us a day on what we call a 24-hour, 12-hour day, 12-hour night ideology. It's moving on a monthly basis with the moon traveling on a 28-day schedule. It's moving on a yearly basis where we have 6 months of summer, 6 months of winter. So you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of things that we call time that's involved in our life and what's happening to us here on the earth. So our whole idea of time, whether it's daily, weekly, yearly, is based on the movement of the earth with its relationship to the timeless universe. And the timeless universe, when we see the timeless universe, it comes back to this word, a star ology or astrology. So astrology, star, this is light particles. These light particles, where do they come from? They come from the stars. They come from the sun. Not just do they come from the sun, they come from all of the systems that are working out there, working for our good, really, working for our greater good. But nevertheless, that's what they are. So astrology, and here you have astrology, a star. Why we're afraid of the word is because religion has taught us to be afraid of the word, right? Do you see any reason to be afraid of that word? There shouldn't be any reason. If we realize a star is the same thing as light, L-I-G-H-T, and what is light? God said, I am light. So light is God. So actually, you could actually say a Godology. If I'm looking at the universe, if I'm looking at, we call it astrology, I could be calling it a Godology. Oh, really? Okay. What would that be? It would be the study of God. Because logy is where we get the word logos, L-O-G-O-S. And the word logos, we use the word word. And what's the word word? It's the seed. Well, is the word emanating from God? Psalms 19 clearly tells us in every language on the earth, it's constantly emanating from God. So is God constantly spewing words out? Yeah, but they come forth in sounds. They come forth in sounds and colors. Sounds being vibrations, movement, and colors that create these same things. And they work harmoniously. Harmoniously they work to build this beautiful life that we have right here in this place.
And
Now,
if you looked at that, like Hebrew does backwards, you would say words from the stars.
yes, you would. Yes, and if we knew that, if that wasn't taken away from us by religion, i.e. the church, if they didn't take away the idea of astrology, because they told every one of us that it was demonic. They told us it was of the devil. Why did they tell us that? Well, they'll pick certain people out who use this wisdom for the disruption or for control over people. And if you think they don't, think again and look, they do. And so in that respect, then you'd stay away from it if you were going to be manipulated and controlled by it. Because there are many that do. I would honestly think the Catholic Church are masters of astrology, but don't want us to know, because everything in the Vatican, their utensils, their garments, their clothing, everything about them is astrological. If you only knew how to read the sign. Our problem has been we lost the science of reading the signs. What happened to that science? It got buried under dogma and doctrine, religion. And then what did we do? We embraced a religious ideology and call it our doctrine or our box, and we put ourselves in it. And all the time, God was trying to show us the science of light. And what is that science of light? It's the science of the Word. It's the science of the Logos. It's the science of the seed. And so the ancient Hebrew, and the Sefer Yetzirah, as well as many, many, many other phenomenal books, constantly will give us the truth about this science. Oh, let me see here. Let's just use this cardinal cross again, and this is the astrological wheel. So we're going to put the 12 signs in it, mainly because the truth is in it. Now, in Hebrew, you begin Hebrew with the Aleph. That's the first glyph. That's number 1. So in Hebrew, you have what's called 3 mothers. 3 mothers. In other words, 3 of the glyphs are called the mother glyphs. The very first glyph, the middle glyph, it's the 12th or 13th glyph, I think. It's called the mem. And then next to the last glyph, it's called the shin. So from these 3 glyphs, 3 mother glyphs, why do they call them mother? Well, that's the divine mother God. From these 3 mother glyphs, everything is created. Aleph, that's God. Mem, that's water, materiality. And then the shin is breath, fire, life, etc. Many of the things. So you combine those things, and you have this wheel broken down in 3 places. As you go around the wheel. And this starts with Aries, goes all the way around to Pisces. And from Aries you have this. You have to remember this. You have fire, earth, air, and water. And those 4 elements, fire, earth, air, and water, nothing on the earth exists without these 4 elements, fire, earth, air, and water. Where do they all come from? They come from here. Astrology. They come from the stars. The energy, okay? Fire, earth, air, and water. Then you repeat the same thing. Fire, earth, air, and water. Then you repeat it again. Fire, earth, air, and water. So actually you have 3 divisions of 12. Right? 3 divisions of 12. So this division is called the Aleph. It's the first. This division is called Mem. It's the second mother. And this division is called the Shin. It's the third mother. So you have 3 divisions in that circle of the 12 astrological signs. That's the 3 in 1. Then you have the 7 doubles right here. You have the 7 doubles. These 7 doubles are the glyphs that build the physical body. They relate to these 7 signs right here, from Aries through Libra. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in the God-man in the sky, or we call it many things, but you can look at the calendar, the astrological calendar, and it will give you every place: the head, the neck, shoulders, arms, lungs or chest or breast, heart, womb, pelvic, your pelvic, I forget what it's called, up your lower torso, your what do you call it?
Your thigh.
Your thigh, yeah, there you go. Your thigh, your knees, all the way right on around to your foot. Now, you know, anybody would just think a little bit. If you think outside the religious box, anybody, wow, that all does fit, don't it? It's amazing how that really fits. You know, and this science, it can't be debunked. It's just totally, it can be put to any test it wants. You put it numerically to a test, you can put it any test, it still can't be debunked. It still is doing and saying exactly the same thing. So when you come into the 7 doubles, you build actually the torso of man. And in building that torso, it's built on these major light colors. I thought I had them wrote down here somewhere. I think I do. I wanted you to see these colors. Here we go. Let me just read you this. These colors are, well, I put them on here because these are blue, green, and you can find all of these colors in biblical stories. Like for instance, this story of green, the Reed Sea, and of course you see where the story is told by the King James translation as the Red, R-E-D, Sea, right? The Red Sea. It's named that. But actually, if you look at it in Hebrew, it's the reed, R-E-E-D. And the reason it uses the Reed Sea is because the reeds grew in it so thick that it caused the water to look green. So that's why that color green is at your heart. And then you have yellow. Then you have orange. And then you have red. Now I want to show you something here. Because most people...
Welcome to the Wizard of Oz.
There you go. The Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz is laid on this same identical story. Why? Because it's built out of theosophical teachings and
Put
truths.
on your ruby slippers to follow the yellow brick road to the Emerald City, to go up into the wild blue yonder, back to where you had never really left.
Exactly. That's exactly the truth right there. You're going back to where you never
That's
left.
the story.
Where is that? That's home. Well, where is home? It's right here. Here is home. Where's heaven at? Here is heaven. You are heaven. You're heaven on earth. So, and these stories, all of these stories, whether it's story of Cinderella, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, all of these great stories are built on this astrological truth. A star, we start calling it the Godology. The truth of the Godology. So it's the same thing, saying the same thing. The Godology, astrology. That's why Genesis uses God. Elohim means the gods, the wheel of powers, the many wheel of powers, 12 wheel of powers. That's why it uses that. It couldn't use any other thing. I mean, that alone should kind of rattle us and wake us up and make us say, oh, okay, it's about astrology. Yeah, what is astrology? It's about God. It's about the Word of God. It's about how God, through His vibration, creates. Now, I want you to notice between blue and red, and you'll see these things between blue and red, our whole natural world manifests in this dimension right here. And of course, red be fire. Well, when Moses was encountered by the burning bush, the fiery bush, who was he encountered with? He was encountering Elohim. Well, is Elohim in your gonads? Is your gonads is red down here? Does that just mean low earth flesh and we're supposed to seduce it or get rid of it or do away with it? No, this is referring to the divine seed. This is where the seed, this is where creation is at. You were created from this section, even though it's the lower part. The lower part is the higher part. It's like a song they sang years and years ago. Actually, everything is upside down and we don't recognize it. So here is God and here's the physical carnal. Or here is God and here's the physical carnal. They're both and. If we can see that, if we can grasp it. Here's where you'll find the ovaries and the testicles. And when you combine the dual, the ovary and the testicle, what can you get? You can actually create a God. That's what Abraham said. Abraham in Genesis 14 and 16. That's exactly what he said. You can create a God. What is that? It's a physical being. God manifested in the physical world. So we see these colors, and these colors, of course, you go on up the spectrum of the scale, the light scale, but nevertheless, in this area of the physical body, the torso, from the throat chakra, which is blue, right down to the gonads, the ovaries or the testicles, which are red, are symbolic by these colors. Creation, creativity is right there. Well, divinity's up here in these colors of purple and violet. These colors, don't we always recognize these as But where do they come out of? They're the dark colors. You mean God is dark or black? Night? Yes. Yes. He hides there. He hides where we think he ain't. Don't we? Yeah, we don't realize God's hid right there waiting on us. So, we say that let me read these things. I said, everything in the material world, and I'm calling this thick man the material world. These are the 7 doubles in the Hebrew glyphs. Everything in the material manifest world is produced between the colors of blue and red. Red represents fire, blue represents water or the sky where the rain waters come from. The 4 elements, fire, earth, air, and water, represents generative or the power to produce. These right here. And they do. You can see that. It's in nature. It's natural. The reason it's natural is it's in nature. Is there anything wrong with natural? No. Natural, nature is God, light, and star manifested. Slowed down slow enough that we can see it. We can't see God in all of its power because it's moving at a vibrational speed that's beyond our ability to see it. So what did God say? Well, I'm trying to show you I'm here. I've been here all the time. I never left. Just look in the mirror. You see. So these colors are blue and red. Between those 2 colors, that's where everything is created. And it's between these colors, and I want you to kind of pay attention to this. This is confusing, but when you look at the Aleph, here's what the Aleph in Hebrew, even though it's called number 1, it's called life / death. Now that seems like a contradiction. It is. It's simply because it's called positive and negative. And why would it do that? Why does the Aleph represent life, death, positive, negative? It means life, destruction. And because we have 4 different components, just exactly like we have fire, earth, air, and water, we have the other 4 that are, let me see if I wrote them down, fire, earth, air, and water. Generative, generation, conservation, corruption, and destruction. And if you follow these, fire generates, earth conserves or conservates. You know, when you study conservation, what are you studying? You're studying the earth. Air, corruption. And what happens with the hurricanes and tornadoes? The air moving, it's corruption. And water, destruction. You can see that. Water, water that's not controlled, it's not channeled, it can destroy. Now what is that? Well, that's what we would call just will a man live again if he died? Yes, why? Because he's on the wheel of eternity. He's on this wheel of infinity. He'll never ever not be. He'll always constantly be. But he has to embrace the beginning and the end in the one. He has to begin to own this. He has to begin to be at the place where he's not afraid of this or that. He comes to a place where he owns this and that. And from that place, as we get there, we will find a place of peace, of freedom, of strength, of love, of all of the things that we long for, all the things that we all really want to embrace. We'll find those things. And we are finding those things. I know I am, and I know what they're doing for me, and I thank God for those things. I thank God for what it does for me. But I'm embracing the entire wheel. Then we come to so you have the 3 mothers, you have the 7 doubles. Don't be afraid of this double idea of tension. The tension starts right here with the Aleph, life, death. So what happens at this point of death? Life. The cyclical thing. So you have the duality, 7 doubles. And it's amazing that the Hebrew alphabet has done this thing, that it's broke itself off into the 3 mothers: light, life, L-I-F-E, and love. I think that's wonderful, don't you? And I think that that's the definition for God. If you really want to know what God is, He's got this old man up there that's like a mean judge that's trying to take a list and check it twice, make sure if you have been okay. No. God is light, life, and love. That to the ear, especially to a Christian, should be a really phenomenal message that's been under the ear of condemnation. That God, light, life, and love. From that, the light, life, and love, the 3 mothers, you get the 7 doubles, physical manifestation of light, life, and love. And where's this physical manifestation? It's inside the 12 wheels of power, the Elohim. So what do? You come from God. Isn't this what Paul said? You live by God, and you return right back to God. So everything's from, and everything is back to. Everything. So in that, if we would just begin to embrace the idea of who we are as a divine being, not just a human being, not just a physical being, then I think that we would be more powerful, more blessed, more. I won't read that. I was going to read something from Kuhn, but that gets into a whole other rabbit trail, so I'm just going to quit right there. And Kuhn can get you into a long rabbit trail. I mean, I swear he's tremendous. Okay, any questions? Beverly? Yeah.
I have a question and I want to sing a song that goes with this.
Okay.
The 7 doubles is your physical life and your spiritual life. Is that what it is?
Yes, you can call it the physical and the spiritual. You can call it the divine, the human. Yeah, and that's the dual. That's the dual. It's not something you will be. It's what you are. It's what we are. We are light. We're not going to be light. We're not going to go up to the streets of gold and dance on them. We are the gold. And the streets is the ones that we're laying out. It's the dance we're doing. So, yeah, it just